you guys ever get DMs from people asking for a sub for sub as a creator? Was there ever a time you thought this worked? And I want to make it clear, if you think sub for sub is good, I'm not here to judge you. I don't think anything's wrong with you believing that when you start out. I think there's something wrong with it long term, but starting out, I don't think there's anything wrong. Okay, to be honest, I did fall for the very first person who did it to me because I wasn't familiar with how empty it was. They ended up unsubscribing like a week later. So the worst part is they're not even keeping up to it. Like a pyramid scheme collapses when you run out of people to offer. Yeah, you're right, Ed. The worst part of this is it's a worse pyramid scheme. At least in a pyramid scheme, if your downline could at least make you $1.50. This pyramid scheme, your downline is full of people who are too busy reading their comics and crying to even make you $1.50. I'll sub to you if you sub to me. Gives you nothing because that person doesn't know you. Like, I sub for sub with some of my friends, but they're people I watch. A great example is my producer, Rosie Bird TV. I sub for sub with my buddy Somni. You know, I watch her content. It's a solidarity I'm trying to form there. When you're dealing with strangers you don't know that well, people you don't know very well, sub for subbing with them has no value. So I guess a question I'm still thinking about is, why do people bring it up? Now, if you follow me on Twitter at webcomics_hub, you will have noticed I made this tweet. Sub for sub is quite literally one of the most toxic behaviors in the creator community. It's often perpetuated by people with poor opinions of their own work, a poor understanding of the platform's growth mechanics, and exists entirely to satisfy one person's sad little ego. This is in response to Clara Cero, I don't know how to say her name, but I hope it's right, getting a DM on Instagram, someone saying, "Hi, let's subscribe to each other's Webtoon series on Webtoon and Tapas," and it doesn't seem like Clara knew who this person was. The disagreeing comment was from Matthew, who makes Swords Comic. I actually read Swords Comic, so it's not really that weird. And Matthew said, "I don't know, seems like punching down to mock people for having a fragile ego. Most artists aren't good or mindful about the marketing aspect of their work. That's not exactly a secret." That's the perspective that Matthew's bringing. I don't think it's correct, and I think that it's important. I'm saying this because I think it's important to highlight that I do see that perspective. The longer I've thought about it, I see the situation of the ignorant young person making that mistake. But in my experience, sub for sub has never been done by newer creators. It's always been done by very old creators who are just very insecure. Paris says, "I knew immediately that those messages were off, especially because of the way they're worded. I don't know, they always felt soulless and looking out for themselves for the sub for sub stuff. I don't like having to like people because they like me. Give me something valuable." Yeah, right? The longer I think about it, I start to see Matthew's point a lot more. And maybe these people just feel so lost in the creative environment, right? That they think this is the only way. But they can't be so ignorant as to not know this doesn't work. I feel like it's pretty obvious, just on a fundamental mathematical perspective. And if you had to get your subscribers one for one in a sub for sub game, you would take agent. What about trading links or cameos from other comics as ads? I think those are different, because I think trading links is something that people do to get to know each other. I love, I remember when a lot of you joined the Discord, I was in the call, and I think it was Kylie or someone else was like, "Hey, let's swap links just so we can see what everyone's making." I think that's like a community thing. It's like walking into a room and passing around a blunt or sharing a drink. It's a fun thing. The cameos also often need to be done because you like that person's character. I don't know about the rest of you, but I would only draw someone's character or even put their thing in my comic because I respected them and I liked them. Because the thing is, if I don't want to be associated with Nazi country humans person. What do we all think about the art moods tag? I've seen that it's essentially sub for Twitter. I don't agree with that. I think art moods is an important part of networking in the community. I feel like there's a very fine line here between networking in the community and engaging in the what I would call the negative aspects of sub for sub culture, right? I think networking is one in which we mutually benefit. A great example is this. Gleamy is someone who lives in the UK. There's not a lot of UK creators, right? And I personally don't know a lot of UK creators. And in my perspective, Gleamy is a pretty important person for me because it's I get to meet someone in my community, right? That's how I'm seeing it. Gleamy is someone in my community. I get to meet, I get to know. And when I want to go to events, when I want to do stuff, following Gleamy on Twitter or adding them on Discord or whatever is a great way for me to know what they're doing, or reading their comics is a great for me to know what they're up to and keeping track and being "Hey, let's go to Thought Bubble together." Gleamy and I are actually going to go to Thought Bubble together, right? Or if I go to MCM Comic Con, which it's looking like I might, Gleamy and I will go to MCM Comic Con together. Like that's a community thing, right? I think that's like a networking thing. That's mutually beneficial because the relationship is valuable to both of us. And I think when it comes to sub for sub environments, you will notice that like it will never be somebody on equal footing to you asking you for that. Maybe someone who's so low that one sub adds value. And like whenever I look at their comics, they're the very young people. Like, you know, I have a DM that's been sitting in my DMs on Twitter, someone asking me to look at their comic, but like not giving me more than just an image, telling me about when the Kickstarter is coming out. But they look like they're new and starting out, whatever, I'm leaving them alone. And like when it's a new creator, I think it's fine. I think I let it go. But like often I get it from advanced creators. I used to know this person who was very spiteful and bitter because they thought that Webtoon wasn't recognizing them because of the genre of their comic. They made like a military style comic. For that person, it would be very likely that they could act in a way where they start asking people to sub for sub, which I don't think they ever did. But those people are the people I tend to experience more. People who are like bitter, not doing really well, and have not tried to engage with their comic as a piece of art or engage with their comic on a broader scale or try different things. They just want to increase number instead of trying to change themselves or improve or get somewhere else. I think if you're going to engage in an environment where people want people to see your work, you want to be in an environment where it's more about either that you're contributing, you're providing value to other creators, and then they're providing value to you, or one where everybody is sharing just because it's a promotion spot, but it's not about trying to make other creators spend their time subscribing to you. I think sub for sub inherently is like, it's an inferiority complex game. I don't think it's a purposeful. I don't think it's one they're doing to actively be harmful. They're wasting other people's time. They're clogging people's DMs. They're giving themselves a bad rep. Like, it's making the community seem more desperate than it needs to be. Like, so in the end, everything's a kink again. Are you saying that sub for sub is a kink? Is that the conclusion we came to as a community? Sub for sub is a kink thing. It's a kink. Good talk, chat. Good talk. Yeah. Great job, everyone. We really did some science here.